In the dark streets of 19th century Turin, danger was a constant companion. St. John Bosco, or Don Bosco as everyone called him, dedicated his life to helping poor and abandoned boys, teaching them trades, faith, and dignity. But his mission made him enemies, criminals, anti-clerical groups, and even corrupt officials wanted to silence him. Many times, they tried to kill him, yet every time his life was in danger, something mysterious happened. Out of the shadows came a large gray dog who seemed to appear from nowhere and vanish just as mysteriously. His name was Grigio. The first time Don Bosco met Grigio was one cold night in 1852. He was walking home through a deserted road when he heard footsteps behind him. The air grew tense. Two men emerged from the darkness, one holding a club, the other a knife. Before Don Bosco could react, a huge gray dog appeared silently at his side, baring its teeth. The attackers froze. The animal's growl was deep and powerful, unlike any dog they had ever seen. Terrified, they ran into the night. Don Bosco bent down to pet the dog, but Grigio simply wagged his tail, walked him safely home, and disappeared. From that night on, Grigio became a silent guardian. Whenever Don Bosco was in danger, he would appear. Sometimes Don Bosco would be surrounded by thugs, and the dog would leap between them, forcing them to flee. Other times, Grigio would guide him through dark streets, keeping him from walking into traps. One evening, when Don Bosco was returning late from visiting a sick boy, a man waited in ambush with a pistol. Just as he raised his weapon, Grigio appeared, growling furiously. The man dropped his gun and ran, shouting that he had no wish to fight with the devil's dog. What was strange was that Grigio never ate, never seemed to age, and never left any trace of where he came from. Don Bosco once tried to keep him inside the oratory, offering him food and water. The dog refused to eat and stood by the door until they let him out. When they opened it, he vanished. No one knew where he went. There was one night when Grigio's help seemed almost supernatural. Don Bosco had been warned not to walk home alone, but he had faith that God would protect him. As he walked, two men jumped from an alley and threw a cloak over his head, trying to strangle him. Suddenly, the sound of a fierce growl broke the silence. Grigio launched himself at the attackers, biting and pulling until they released Don Bosco. Then he gently nudged the priest to his feet and accompanied him home. Once there, he turned around and disappeared into the fog. Years later, when Don Bosco was older and less often threatened, Grigio stopped appearing. It was as if his mission had ended. But what makes the story even stranger is that Grigio appeared again decades after Don Bosco's death. In 1893, Father Cagliero, one of Don Bosco's early disciples, was traveling through a dangerous area in South America when a gray dog appeared, guarded him through the night, and vanished the next morning. He later wrote that the dog looked exactly like Grigio. So, who was Grigio? A real animal sent by God. An angel taking the form of a dog, a divine manifestation of protection. Don Bosco himself never claimed to know. He would simply smile and say, "The Lord has many ways to protect his servants." For him, Grigio was not about mystery or curiosity, but about divine providence, a reminder that those who work for good are never abandoned. Grigio's story teaches something deeper than the legend of a ghostly protector. It shows that when we dedicate ourselves to God's work, we are never truly alone. Help may come in unexpected forms, sometimes even with fur and for legs. Even today, many devotees of St. John Bosco keep a picture of Grigio as a symbol of protection and faith. They believe that just as the dog appeared when Don Bosco was in danger, God still sends his guardians, visible or invisible, to protect those who follow his path. If you have ever felt abandoned or unsafe, remember the story of Grigio. Remember that when the night seems darkest, God's help can appear in ways you least expect. Before you leave, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss the next story of faith and mystery from the lives of the saints. And share this video with someone who could use a reminder that no one who walks with God walks alone.